The following podcast contains adult language and themes that may be unsuitable for some listeners. You've been warned.
Cellulite is a very common, harmless skin condition that causes lumpy, dimpled flesh on the thighs, hips, buttocks, and abdomen. The condition is most prevalent in women who are also.
How many of us have been on a diet? Counting calories and carbs, stressing about our workout routines, and hating the person we see in the mirror. Where did this obsession come from, and is it really healthy? Or are we all just pawns in the larger capitalist scheme of diet culture?
For now, put away that diet soda and those fat-free snacks because we're about to serve you a big old dose of taboo topics. I'm your host, Matt, and this is the Going There podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, keep your arms and legs inside the car at all times, cause we're going there. Taboo topics are back on the table.
Thank you for everybody coming here today. I'm super excited about this one. This is gonna be an amazing episode because we have an amazing panel. And I wanna start with our freaking movie star to my right. Please introduce yourself.
So my name is Megan Cox. I was a participant in the Way Down docuseries. I founded the Beyond Zion Foundation and just a Midwest mom and wife as well.
So for the audience members who might not know what she was talking about, and she will be on another episode, so you'll hear even more about it. The Way Down was an HBO Max docuseries about Remnant Church, and we are going to definitely get into some of what it was today, as well as future episodes, because it was a very bizarre tale. And we just couldn't be more thankful to have somebody as awesome as Megan, who just happened to be not that far away, to be here in the studio with us. So we're still starstruck. We might be taking selfies with you all night. And then you guys know the sexy caramel voiced chocolate man to my left.
My man. I'm Hassan Rogers, and I'm a theater artist and an avid whiskey drinker.
Hassan, I change up my mug every episode. Hassan's going to be changing his title every episode. And then we are super pumped to have an amazing professional and educated person on the Zoom call with us. This is the first time we're doing a remote call, and we're really hoping this goes smoother than last season. Since we're doing video, please introduce yourself. Thank you for being here.
Hi, everybody. I'm Elaine Bishop. I am a certified nurse midwife, and I am an advocate for body positivity and autonomy and basically patient rights and developing, a better healthcare system for everybody if possible.
How do you feel about whiskey?
I'm not as enthusiastic as you, Hassan.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That's how I put it.
You're not hurting my feelings. I think I'm the one who bought you that.
That's right.
I'm a vodka girl.
Oh, you're a vodka girl. Okay.
Me too. I'm a basic white bitch, for sure. I want to start this episode by asking first Megan and Hassan, what has been your own personal journey in short form with body positivity and or negativity, image, and struggles with diet, weight, so on?
Well, for me, it's been my entire life of struggling with, body negativity. I don't think I've once been positive about my body because that was how I was brought up. And that was later on through my teen years to my early adult years. It's still there a little bit, but, being a part of the Way Down diet and having then how you look on the outside and how you approach, eating to be tied into morality. So it's been a lifelong journey for me.
And there is a big history with that. We're going to get into that in a minute. Hassan, how about you?
Well, it's funny. It's almost like the full spectrum, because growing up, very athletic, always in shape, always working out and all that. And then the first marriage, I'm recently married, by the way.
Congratulations. I was at the wedding. It was beautiful. Now I feel like we have to post pictures in this episode.
The first marriage, I gained a lot of weight. I gained about 100 pounds. And so from the time I was in high school, so if you saw me in high school at 212, and then you saw me again 10 years later, and 10 years later would have been a few years into my wedding, my marriage, I was 100 pounds heavier, and at one point I got up to 342 pounds. And then a heart attack happened as a result of the divorce, and I found myself, really shocked into a different reality, and looked at starting to reclaim some of my more fit state. And the funny part was there was a big difference in those who notice you and those who notice your transformation. And from a guy who was always gregarious and outgoing anyway, it still was interesting to see that there were people watching you. And there were people that said things like this, for a big guy, you're so-and-so and so. Yeah. For a big guy, you're super athletic. And it was funny because I didn't see myself as a big guy, except I was huge. And I'm a big sizable fuck now. But at this point, I'm keenly aware of the effect my nutrition and my lifestyle has on my body.
And you're an actor, and you do a lot of things on camera. Have you noticed people try to comment on that or tiptoe around that?
One time someone said, you probably would be considered, for a few more principles if you weren't, so portly. And I said, well, I don't know, man. I just don't think there's a better actor than me. So,
That is the most polite way to put that. I mean, it's not great.
That's polite.
Yeah. I did they say it exactly like that?
No, they did. They said it in those words. I mean, they were in a production with me.
Yeah.
So it's not like they had a better role than I did, so I just never thought of it.
What a highbrow way to say it.
Yeah, I never thought about it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, because, typically people in the entertainment, like the people actually in the entertainment part, are more progressive, more open and understanding, and there's a wide variety of people. So they're really just, they found a PC way to say a real dick-headed comment, because that's bullshit, but we're going to talk more about what the effects of those types of things have had on the media and our culture. But Elaine, how about you? What is your personal story? Because you shared a little bit of that with me offline.
Well, I was raised in a very fat-phobic household, and my mom was raised in a very, very fat-phobic household. So it's a generational thing that's been passed down for many, many, many years. I think I started Weight Watchers when I was 13 or 14 years old. I have tried every diet on the market. And, just yo-yoed my way through early adulthood until I started having babies of my own. And I took my son to the doctor when he was 3. When they're 3, they start telling you what your child's BMI is. And we'll dig into BMI a little bit more later, why it's bullshit. But they told me my son was obese at the age of 3. And he was on the same growth curve that he had been on from birth. I grow big babies. My husband's family grew big babies. My brother was 10 pounds at birth. There is a genetic component to the size of your body. And I am not a small person, and I did not produce small people. So I have this chunk of a kid, and I get told he's obese, and I go home and I'm reading about it, and it's like you're setting your child up for a lifetime of disease and terrible outcomes, and how dare you put your child at risk like that. And I talked to his pediatrician because I was pretty freaked out. And he was like, let's not worry about it. He's on the growth curve. He's on his same growth curve. No big deal. Let's not worry. Well, 2 years later, I bring his sister in. She's now 3, and she's obese too. She's smaller than he was, but she's still in the obese category. And the doctor tells me, I'm thinking, like, we don't worry about this, right? My kid's on the growth curve. It's fine. He says, well, you can't just let her eat as many pancakes as she wants. And that was just like such an aha moment. Like, this is fucking bullshit. My 3-year-old daughter already has to perform and be conventionally attractive. Like, if it wasn't a worry for my son, why is it a worry for my daughter? And I just got so enraged, and I was like, I need to figure this out. I need to figure my own shit out around my body image before my kids are old enough to observe that happening, because it's such a learned behavior, and it was so learned for me in being raised and growing up. And so I kind of set off on this journey to like understand what is weight, what actually does weight mean in terms of health. What do diets do? Do they work? Do they not? Am I failing? Is the diet failing? What contributes to health? What takes away from health? And so I discovered, like, we're not in control of the size of our bodies like we think we are. That blew my mind. When I heard the first person say, in this support group, we are not going to talk about intentional weight change, I was like, why not? I mean, I've been trying to intentionally change my weight my whole life. Why would I stop talking about that? And it took some research to figure out why 98% of diets fail. Most people who diet end up at a higher weight than they started at within 2 to 5 years. Current diet research rarely ever goes beyond 2 years.
Yeah.
Because then it would show that it doesn't work, right? So those are some of the realizations that I was having, and like the discoveries that I made that kind of set me off onto this trajectory of like, what are we doing?
Yeah. I mean, what you're saying is like, it's like if poodles became really popular tomorrow, a Great Dane isn't going to look like a poodle no matter how you shave it and try to starve it and do all this shit. And it's insane that everybody has to fit this mold. And we're going to talk in a minute about that. I'm going to real quickly share my story. And I think it's only important because there's a lot of people out there who others might look at and say, well, they have nothing to worry about. And I feel like depending on your point of view, some people look at me like that. But I've struggled with weight my entire adult life. As soon as I turned 18, I gained 40 pounds right out of high school. It's because I was more sedentary, metabolism stopped, all this stuff. And my entire adult life has been this roller coaster, up and down, up and down. I can gain and lose weight really fast, but not in a healthy, productive way. And the thing that pisses me off is when somebody doesn't think you are, I mean, there's sexism, racism, all this stuff, and what we're going to talk about. But from the other side of it, as a guy, people have no problem telling you, oh man, you look fat, or hey, you put some weight on. Or like, I mean, my family and like some of my friends would comment on your weight, and you're like, what the fuck is that? Like, who does that? And it's not like a fun jab. It's like you're trying to knock this person down. And so I'll tell you something now. If you're ever self-conscious, don't start a podcast, and especially don't start videotaping it and having to edit yourself all the time.
And you see yourself.
Oh my good God. It is not something fun to do. So let's talk about how we got here. How we got here to this point in society where, you know, we are trying to all fit this mold where it's expected to be this certain way. Think back into history, the Renaissance. You were beautiful if you were heavy. That means you were well fed. That means that you had resources, you had access. It was the peasants, the poor, the bottom of the barrel people in their society who they considered the worst of the worst, who were skinny, you know? And so what really changed that was the advent, obviously, of like media and advertising and just like public image, things that we didn't really have before then. But one of the things that Elaine and I were kind of like, we both knew a certain part of it, and I think Megan does as well, weight being tied to morality, is the dude who invented the graham cracker.
I just listened to a podcast about him today. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's wild.
And he was some cracker named Graham. And he invents the graham cracker essentially. But he's like this, he's a religious leader who says that women especially should be abstinent in their diets. He was also, I think, kind of pro-vegetarian, but the key to health and godliness and morality are all tied to your diet, are all tied specifically to your diet, and not, you know, in moderation, an abstinent diet. Like you should be eating fucking graham crackers. And then Elaine, you shared with me, he's very much in bed with the Kellogg man.
I was going to say Dr. Kellogg. Yeah.
And is that an urban legend that Kellogg's was invented to reduce masturbation?
I don't know about the masturbation, but there was
cracker.
Yeah,
thing.
but the Kellogg, that was a big
thought that was
movement,
all the
and that
cereal movement was.
Cereal was going to be your meal, the way like you feed livestock. You know, that's what you feed them.
Yeah.
So you would eat it for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and in turn, you would control your calories, and you would lose weight and be in shape.
Yeah.
I thought the Kellogg's guy was into eugenics.
For our listener, just in case they don't understand what that is, can you real high level explain eugenics?
Sure. It is this faulty idea that humans, like livestock, can be bred to be optimal. And that usually means cutting out certain characteristics. You know, Hitler was a eugenicist, right? And so in this time period, this was the late 1800s, early 1900s, Kellogg actually thought that women were getting too thin on Graham's Graham diet. And he stepped in and was like, we need to plump these ladies up a little bit because they're just like sickly and they're not producing enough babies, enough white babies for America to be superior to all other countries. And we need to feed these ladies a little bit more in order for them to reproduce so that we can be the superior nation full of white people.
So then what also happened in the 1800s was some asshole Belgian mathematician created the BMI scale. And to be specific, BMI, like a lot of things that are legislated and added into the medical profession, BMI has nothing to do with science or biology or anatomy.
Or health.
The BMI scale is purely a mathematical formula based on like averaging out humans.
White human men.
White. I was going to say white.
It skews color, it skews race, it skews gender, it skews everything. BMI should be called the BSI for the bullshit index because that's what it is. There's a really good article on NPR, the morning edition that I read about all the things that basically debunk it top to bottom because it's not based on reality. It's saying, here's an average person. And so if you don't fit into this average thing, no one, even when I'm very fit, I've never been at my actual what you're supposed to be for my size because it doesn't take into account your frame, it doesn't take into account muscle, it doesn't take into account.
It's influenced by greed. It's hugely influenced by greed. The reason that it was ever brought into the medical community, because when that mathematician made the BMI, he specifically said, this is not for individual use. This does not examine the health of an individual. This is for population level statistics only.
And which is problematic too, because it skews the U.S. as heavily overweight because we're using the BMI scale.
But it wasn't always like that. So the BMI was taken, it was co-opted by life insurance companies in the early 1900s. And it was used as like a risk stratification tool, right? And so in that time period, the people who could afford to put money towards life insurance were rich white men. And so they brought the BMI in to determine who should pay more for life insurance and who shouldn't, right? Life insurance companies used it to make a lot of money. Well, then years later, the WHO convened, the World Health Organization convened, and they examined the BMI. And the BMI breaks you down into underweight, normal weight, overweight, obese. This was in the, I think, early 1990s, that they decided to decrease the requirements for being in the overweight and obese categories. So overnight, a bunch of people were all of a sudden overweight or obese, and they didn't change their bodies at all. And it's infuriating. The people who funded this are the pharmaceutical companies who were bringing 2 weight loss drugs to market. Within 2 years of this happening, suddenly they have a million
Dexatrin
customers.
and all those.
Like it's transparently corrupt. It's not even secret.
So what happens is most of us are now overweight or obese. I don't, like I said, in my, at least from, my late 20s on, I've never been below overweight. So what does that fund other than the pharmaceuticals? In a nutshell, it's the diet culture, the diet market, a multi-billion-dollar market. And Elaine started to kind of get at it that they don't work, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. But I want to ask you guys, when you hear diet culture, you hear anything about diets, what do you think? You had somebody kind of bring you in on diets.
Yes. So with my dad and stepmom, there was no official diet, just portion control. But when I turned 12, my mom discovered a Bible-based weight loss program. So that's how the morality got tied to eating. And it was kind of loosey-goosey. It was like intuitive eating, but whatever you had to cut it in half. You had to wait for your stomach to actually growl before you could eat, which doesn't always happen. But you could eat whatever you wanted. You could eat a piece of cheesecake if you wanted, or a candy bar. But if you take one bite over full, then that means you chose that candy bar, whatever it is you choose to eat. You chose that over a relationship with God. So it's terrifying, right? Because you don't want to do that. You're being told by Gwen Chamberlain through The Way Down that you're worshiping the refrigerator, you're worshiping the food over God, and you need to stop that.
Somebody from the church came to my door, knocked on it, and said, "We want to make sure that you have Jesus in your heart, but no cheeses in the fridge."
Yes.
This dad joke of the week is brought to you by Velveeta. Yeah, that's absolutely terrifying and nuts. But so that people don't get the wrong idea, I'm not saying she's nuts. We're going to talk more about church trauma in later episodes. We're all a little nuts. But the point is, no one joins a cult. People join a really good idea. It's the ego at the top and all of these other corrupt things and the hidden truths and all of these that lead to it. But the idea of hey, come join us. You're going to not just get healthy physically, you're going to get healthy emotionally, mentally. Of course, who doesn't want to do that, right?
It sounds like a good idea. Until
it's not, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't, to kind of backtrack just a wee bit, when they told you you're too poorly for this, for me, and that when I said that's a very I've never been told that. It's being overweight, it was an insult to me. Like, go eat another cheeseburger, or, well, you're fat, or you're like, one time I think I was like maybe 140 pounds. And I walked by two guys after leaving a bar, and they're like, well, she's too fat for me. Like, my worth all my life has been tied into my weight. I'm only worth something to somebody, even God, if I'm thin. Basically, that's the only way I'm beautiful.
It's interesting too, because there's a cultural difference here,
which is what
yeah.
There's a reason it's not all white people on this panel, and that's what I always try to do. What is the cultural
it's
difference?
It's funny because I hear a lot of my white friends, particularly those who are women, talk about that type of treatment. Well, if you were to step across the street, there, in the black community, if you're a size 12 under that, if you're under a size 12, then you're gonna be considered, like not that attractive because you're thin. And it's interesting that what you talked about, the earlier mindset of the more you amass, the more mass you have, and that's a good thing. Well, in when we talk about the predisposition for muscularity, for size and strength and things like that, well, at our table, it's usually, especially if you come from a bigger family, it's usually a matter of like the guys, we would see how much more we could eat. So if there was enough for everyone to have, I know my mom would make these, like the Korean style beef short, the flat rib.
Yeah.
She would make those, right? Oh my gosh, she would make 2 roasters, and that roaster pan that has the leaf imprint on it, the coolest little roaster pan. So she would make 2 of them. I remember being a teenager coming in from outside, like washing my hands in the kitchen sink, which is a no-no, and then sitting down and opening the oven and getting a loaf of bread and like sopping the bread in the sauce and then putting the ribs on there. And she's like, make a plate. And everybody's like, hey, I didn't eat yet. He's gonna eat it all. And I remember my brothers, standing to the side, eat it, Haas, eat it. And it's just interesting to hear the torment that some of my friends have gone through. A friend of mine, she told me a story of her dad saying, do you really think you need another piece of bread, especially with butter on it? And so you go to school, you get dogged out by this guy, you get dogged out by your dad, and then you see you just feel I feel sorry for that girl. So then when you as a black guy, you come across a white woman who could be a size 14, and you tell her, oh my gosh, you look nice in that sundress, and she'll say something like, well, this is the only thing that can fit me, and you're like, oh my gosh, who did a number on you? And that's when the point of commercializing weight, the aspirational beauty of advertising. It's not unintentional, it's intentional.
Oh yeah.
You can never be, Homelander, but you can drive his car.
Right.
Yeah, honestly, you can never be Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah.
But you can
drive a Lincoln.
But you can drive a Lincoln.
Yeah.
And it's been that way all along. So you're never going to be the size of that woman. If you go back to some of those the advertisements in magazines, and it's the white woman with that, she has the angular nose, she's tall, and she has that small waist, and she's drawn that way specifically. Well, you're never going to be her, but you can have a Maytag washing machine.
Right.
And that is still pervasive today, except now you have people pimping it the other extreme. For someone who's my size to say, well, Haas, when you're 20 pounds lighter, does it make your knees feel better? If I were to argue, well, there's no difference at all, that's not being truthful. So now we have the weight pimping on both ends of the extreme. So you have people pimping body positive, you have people pimping aspirational, thin beauty, and it's masked around, being the best you. But, you also have to be here at 5 a.m. in the morning for this high intensity training class. And there's a whole industry that plays on, well, if you could just get your waist a little smaller, shopping would be easier for you.
Right.
So it's not about you looking bad. It's going to make your life better. So it always takes the assumption, like Megan said, that there's a moralistic attachment to it, but that you're basically a piece of shit.
Yeah.
You're a piece of shit, And
Lazy, disgusting,
if
yeah.
guys do you wrong, that's the only guy you can get. And if a guy likes you, well, he's fetishizing you. I've heard larger women say that. Well, okay, you know what? Where's my camera? Where's my camera? That's my camera. I just got married, but if you want to fetishize me, fetish me. Just fetishize all about me. Tell me everything you need this big black baritone to do. But see, that's guys. Like we don't live under catcall life.
Well, and that's the problem is there's guys, while we're held to a standard, it's a much looser standard in physical.
Can you read it right?
Yeah. Because if you're funny, you can get away with a lot. You can still be a lead, right? But with women, you have to be this tiny, unrealistic thing. And then it gives people like the Kardashians money and space that bothers me so much. I can't bash the Kardashians enough. I try to do it online. I try to do it in person. Lindsay and I were taking an Uber to downtown one night, and this really nice lady's telling me how much she loves the Kardashians. And there is no reason in hell you should ever fight back with the person driving you, especially if they're going to leave you a rating. And I was like, and Lindsay, of course, she will always oh yeah. And I was just like, I'm sorry, I got to stop you right there. I fucking hate the Kardashians. They're horrible human beings. They give girls body dysmorphia and they set unrealistic expectations. And oh, by the way, none of them actually look like the photos. So fuck the Kardashians. And she's like, well, I can kind of see what you're saying. Other than the 25 minutes about how amazing they are. Yeah. So commercialization, consumerism, and like Elaine mentioned, there's money behind it, especially white male money behind the entire industry. Let's talk about why diets don't actually work. And as you stated from the beginning of this, there's science behind a lot of this that is ignored because they adopt cultural fads or they adopt a mathematical equation that doesn't make any sense. The first thing you were talking about, you have a smaller piece or, a lot of diet is based off of taking away all the things that make you happy, that give you joy, that give you that comfort. But so when you're dieting, you're more stressed, and the more stressed you are, the more you're craving those things that keep you comfortable. Your brain is actually working against you to make the diet successful from a psychological, physiological standpoint. That's one thing. But Elaine, I want to toss it to you because you know way more about this than I do.
What happens big picture is we're human beings, and there is a commonality. Even when we don't all look the same, our bodies respond in similar ways to one another, to different stimuli. So if you go on a very low calorie diet, your metabolism is going to slow down. This is like a remnant of evolution, right? So we used to be hunter-gatherers, and there were times of plenty and there were times of want. And in times of want, your metabolism slows down to keep you alive. And in times of plenty, you would eat to past fullness because you're trying to put on weight to get through the next time of want, right? Well, this has stayed to this day in our metabolisms. So take The Biggest Loser. They took all of these really large people and they had them exercise 6 hours a day and eat a very low calorie diet. And it permanently damaged these people's metabolisms. So now some of those participants are back to the size they started at, but they can only eat 600 calories a day in order to maintain their very large body.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because I meant to research that. I dropped the ball. I don't know if any of the people kept the weight off at all for an extended period of time.
Yeah, there's no way that's sustainable.
Yeah.
It permanently damages your body. And so when you get into yo-yo dieting and weight cycling, that actually causes a kind of stress in your body that damages certain processes, and you are at higher risk for high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes from weight cycling, not from being fat. And So people attribute being fat to all of these diseases. There's a correlation that larger people have a higher incidence of some of those conditions, but it is not a causation. It is not if this, then that situation.
Just with your point with the diabetes and high blood pressure, it's genetic in my family, but I've yo-yoed all my life up until I met my second husband and we got married, and it's stayed pretty steady. But I just found out a couple months ago. I knew I had high blood pressure, and I've been taking medication for that, but I just found out I have type 2 diabetes. So I've been working, and that was tough. It's still tough, but and it's, I attribute it to, but I know that I'm not healthy. Like, I know that. So like, it's a lifestyle change, right? Like, I'm working to something sustainable now. And, but I didn't know about the weight cycling. So thank you for saying that, because that actually, I shudder to even know what damage I've done to myself.
Yeah.
Basically starving myself all those
And
years as a young person.
Yeah. And Megan, you bring up such an important point, and I wanted to say this earlier on. We don't owe anybody health. It's not, your body size is morally neutral. What you eat is morally neutral. Your health status is morally neutral. You are not in control nearly as much as you think that you are or you want to be. You didn't choose to have diabetes. Who chooses that?
Yeah, I didn't say, pick me, please. Like, I want it.
Right. And anyone in your life who is living in a bigger body than what is acceptable, do you think in most circumstances they would say, yes, this is my ideal. I really want to be living in this body with this big belly. And, like, that's like my insecure spot is my belly. And I have to work really hard to not allow the body dysmorphia to be in the forefront of my thinking, right? And the negative body image, because those are two different things. But my point is, we don't all have to be healthy. And for some people, actually, health is a privilege. It's very ableist to set the bar at health.
Yeah, I agree. No, it's not attainable. And I don't think anyone's exempt at all, because you're right. There are so many factors that come into play. Like, I don't know my ass from my elbow with any of this. I just know what I just have from what I've gone through, and even what my husband's taught me as well. But it just, I wish that people would just wake up and see that you got to find the happy medium. You got to think about what is attainable and what isn't. And even healthy people, like people you think are like peak health, they can croak at any moment. I've heard stories. We all have.
Yeah. And you make a good point. Your body does not reflect your habits. Your body size is not as dependent upon your lifestyle as you think it is. There are people who are enormous, who exercise regularly, who eat a healthy diet. There are people who are stick thin, who never step foot in a gym a day in their lives, eat packaged, processed food, and they are praised for the body that they are living in, while the other person is, criticized infinitely.
Stepping into the musician spotlight is Abby Feldman, a comedian who makes comedy pop music about life and loves absurdities in a joyful way. Her recent singles include Soft to Get, Cellulite Summer, Call Me By My Hebrew Name, and Astrology Song, which hit #1 on iTunes comedy charts. Abby performs stand-up in Los Angeles, New York City, and she tours around the country. You can check out her videos, music, and more at abbyfeldman.org.
Or we can do it in a chair like it's my bat mitzvah. Oy vey, call me by my Hebrew name. You don't need to do any heavy lifting. Address me biblically and I'll start schwitzing. Chana, Chaya, Rivka, Rachel, Abram, Yaakov, Yitzhak, Shmuel. Just make a sound. sound like you're gonna gag, yeah. Clear your throat, babe. That's my bad, oy vey. Call me by my Hebrew name.
I want to make a few points here because I think it's important. So, the people listening to this, you're going to run the gamut, right? There's going to be people from all walks of life, all different types of experiences. One, I think it's really important to kind of re-highlight what Elaine said, was that there is certainly a correlation between some of those things, but one does not mean the other is true. And even, again, in my life, somebody who's maybe, at the time 15 pounds heavier. For some people, being only 15 pounds heavier than what they want to be at is a dream, is great. But you have the people who, I'd be eating a salad and someone's like, why are you eating a salad? I'm like, I'm trying to get down to my weight, which, weight is kind of a bullshit relative term. And they'd be like, oh, dude, you don't need to eat that. You should just work out. Like, I do crunches. Look at my abs. And I'm like, fuck you, man. I can't tell you how infuriating that would be, because especially at certain times in my life, my discipline levels are so high. I'm working out 5 days a week. I'm running like 30 miles a week. I'm lifting weights. I'm eating like, my biggest, at this time is my 20s, beer was my biggest downfall. But the point was, it's like, if you lived my lifestyle, you would be a fucking Superman. You'd be on Men's Health. But I'm living this insane lifestyle just to be 15 pounds overweight, and still I feel bad about myself, and you're making me feel worse. That unsolicited horseshit advice needs to stop, because everything you're saying, like, I fucking hate that so much.
My husband's guilty of that sometimes, but not on purpose or intentional. And I have to kind of check him every now and then, because I'm like, he's like, well, how much do you weigh? And I'm like, I don't weigh myself. Like, I only weigh myself. Well, because he was in wrestling. He did wrestling all throughout high school. So yeah. I really don't know, but I think he takes that approach to weight loss. Like, sure, this guy's eating the same meal twice a day. And I'm like, bleh, like, I couldn't do it. But I applaud, like, he has great discipline. Like, I applaud him. He gets up at the ass crack of dawn, goes to the gym 5 days a week, and it's worked for him. It doesn't work for me. And I try to explain to him, you might understand to a point, but we're on different levels with this. I'm just going to go with, if I want to have a double Whopper with cheese, I'm going to have one when I want one. Not every day, but I did treat myself last week. And
right. Megan,
yeah.
Was it good?
Oh, it was so good. It's my favorite.
I'm so glad she just told that story, because that was actually my final point, and she helped me make it. Of course, we have been and love the people who've done that. I do it all the time. I think most people, we can be judgy. And so I'm going to throw myself under the bus. I will catch myself sitting there eating a meal, looking over, and here's this very heavy person eating the worst thing on the menu. And I'm like, should he really be doing that? Doesn't he see what's going on?
Yeah.
And I have to catch myself. I'm not saying it out loud. It's almost subconscious, but consciously I'll catch myself. I'm like, are you the same little whiny bitch who was looking in the mirror this morning going, you're too fat to fit into your jeans? Do you really need to be judging other people? Because we have been programmed into this society to say, like, dieting and exercising equals perfect health.
Yes.
And so the viewers and listeners understand too. We're not saying diet and not dieting, but a healthy diet and exercise is bad. Mm-hmm. We're certainly not trying to make anyone feel bad for doing those things.
It's just not one size fits all. It's what works for one might not work for all.
The working title of this episode was originally, your fat is my skinny. Like, these people, it's like we all obsess over this thing, but we are not one size fits all. We are all different sizes, shapes, heights, muscle mass, everything. We're very different people, which, we're seeing the celebration of diversity finally in kind of a mainstream way, but not with weight, not nearly as much.
But it has changed.
Yes,
the needle has moved.
Yes, the needle has moved for sure, but you still, like, there's still the like I said, I agree. I do judge sometimes, too. I look over, I'm like, well, why are you eating a salad like me? Like, come on. But
sure.
It's still there, but it is getting better.
I feel like we're going to do a road trip to get some of those Whoppers, because it's funny you said double Whopper with cheese is my like go-to treat yourself kind of thing.
Or like their original chicken sandwich.
Oh my. Megan and I told her from the get-go, we were destined to be
so I know what
friends.
you're talking about. When I was 16, I worked at
Those are
Burger King.
my
terrible, but it's so good.
My two go-tos
Yes.
are that fucking chicken sandwich,
Yes.
double Whopper with cheese, and if they have the Hershey pie, I am
I've never had
destroying
that.
that
That's
Hershey
straight
pie.
heroin.
Well, they have
That's
mozzarella
straight-
sticks now, so.
That's straight air with that Hershey pie.
So some of the things that we've finally seen move the needle forward is some of these influencers, and Elaine introduced me to some of these people, and I did my own kind of research and watching the one girl's TikTok, and she's just like eating stuff, and it's like, should you be eating that? She's like, no. Eating it, it's like, should you be eating that? Yeah. Should you be eating that? I don't know. Why the fuck do you care? Like, I even struggle, probably at times even in this conversation, like grasping what you're saying on a deep level.
Yeah.
Because what you've been saying and what a lot of these people are saying is it's no one else's business what you do and what you eat, and you should not be sitting there. And not that you're saying like you should just fucking shoot up heroin and do whatever you want. You're not saying that, but it's like, stop letting other people's idea of health impact you. You need to do what you believe is best for you, because what might be healthy physically is not, let's be honest, dieting and doing all of those strenuous things is mentally and emotionally fucking draining. So are you healthy if you're doing these, if you're doing the graham cracker bullshit diet?
Looking from the other end of this, I do wonder, what is it that stops us from taking a walk today? What is it that stops us from saying, you know what, I probably could drink more water, but I don't? There is something at play, and I think now even that's being monetized now, and I won't mention the app or the thing, but it rhymes with Zoom. It rhymes with Zoom.
But that one. Oh, okay.
There is something there. There is something there. The fact that there is a mindset that would cash in on that, or make you feel bad. I want to be fair, because we do have I want the audience to know that, look, I'm not sitting here saying that, okay, Hassan, only drink whiskey,
right.
Eat eggs over easy every morning, wrap your deviled egg in steak.
I think what everyone is saying is it's just not black and white. It's not one size fits all.
Right.
So of course there's
But
all these little
don't go so far body positive with, okay, basically you're saying I don't give a fuck.
It's not I don't give a fuck. It's I shouldn't give a fuck about
you not giving a
Right.
fuck.
Yes.
Exactly.
Right.
But I think that the feathers get ruffled when you get, because here's the thing. If you put it on a public bulletin board, then anyone can comment. So sometimes we have thin skin.
Sure.
We have thick, big, strong ideas and thin skin. So our fit gurus don't want to hear us say, well, you're being a bit obsessive. They don't want to hear that. And our friends who don't want to hear you saying anything about me, they might be being a bit sensitive if you're sharing something publicly. Like if you share it publicly, then we open up for scrutiny. But I think that's one of the best things that has happened, is that you have people who are all these different sizes and shapes and colors, and they're sharing things, forcing the conversation to take place.
But what's still leading the conversation is everybody should be thin. Thin equals healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So and that
Thin
that
equals
is the
beautiful.
problem.
Thin equals worthy
equals
and
beautiful,
valuable.
right.
Yeah.
That equals pretty. But
Moral.
And see, now I just got, it's so funny because now I'm gonna really let this know. So for black guys, like some of our white brothers, we look and we say, "What's up, dog?" Now you say you're heterosexual, but you find Barbie attractive, and to me, Barbie looks like a 12-year-old boy with breasts, and that's not attractive to me. Like a 12-year-old boy is straight up and down, with shoulders. And then you put breast on it, like that's not attractive to me. So it's funny, like culturally, we want curves and size.
But it's culturally learned, is what you said. Cultural. It's not an innate attraction necessarily.
No.
So you've been taught from day one culturally.
But I will say this though. I will say this as a young man, when I look at, like, what do I like about Elisa when I'm in the 8th grade? I like how I like how she filled out her jeans.
Yeah.
Physically, I like that where we protrude, a woman receives. Where we're hard, a woman is soft. Like, I like that yin and yang of men and women. And I think you get that when a woman is full. That's just me. When a woman is full and she doesn't have to be curvaceous, like, oh my gosh, I look, pop bottle shape, but that fullness, I think that, I think a lot of men who are not able to fully appreciate a woman and handle her requirement and or needs tends to make her feel bad about her natural state. So he doesn't have to feel bad about not being able to handle her.
And this is just my opinion. My thought on all of that is because the Black community said, we're not buying into this shit a long time ago. They're like, you can make those movies with those little skinny sticks. We don't give a shit. But the rest of us, unfortunately, were bought into it because of where we were born and raised. But what you get is the short end of the stick on the medical side of it.
Almost definitely, because you're going to get treated differently unless you know how to advocate for yourself, unless you make yourself important enough to learn the language.
And you see the people who, for a long time, the women who were in the magazines and in the movies who were Black, who were like the main women, they was like the thin, whitish, very watered down version of.
It was Halle Berry. You get Halle Berry or Jane Kennedy. And it took a while. Now, I don't care for this guy's work, but I do applaud him for hiring an array of actors. Tyler Perry bringing in a woman like Jill Scott. Jill Scott is just this, oh my gosh. But
he needs a minute.
Yeah, to have her, it's for us to see the spectrum of womanhood.
Yeah.
And I think social media has been an excellent tool to do that.
Double-edged
a double-edged, but it has forced conversation, whereas before those conversations didn't get to happen. Like, the guys got a chance to bully her as she walked by, but never was there a guy like me from Cleveland saying, hey, go fuck yourself. I looked at your picture and I see all you got is your dog and your rifle and your truck with those stupid bubble tires. Of course you don't like her.
It's very specific. Mike, was that you?
You know what I mean? So now what social media does is, and then she gets to see, well, thanks, I'll share this. Now, this is one where, and this, you say sometimes we're judgy and it pops out of our mouths. On social media, our fingers are those lips. And I was up late one night, scrolling, and I saw these Nigerian girls in a pool, right? Oh my gosh, just full of their womanhood, right? But I noticed bleaching, the bleaching for skin.
Yeah.
And weave. So I was stupid enough to say, a lot of us brothers really would appreciate if our sisters could appreciate, who and what they are without the bleaching cream and without the weave. Oh my gosh.
I'm sure you started a shitstorm.
Yeah, it sounds like you might have stepped in it a little bit.
Yes, I did. And so I think as we wind down, what you said is very important that we begin to mind, not just mind what we say, but mind the fact that what we say matters. Even those little small quips, and then look to learn. I'm looking to learn. I'm looking to appreciate the differences of my experience and your experience and your experience. That way we can grow. So
and you're right. And we probably say this on every episode. There needs to be space for these conversations the whole idea, I feel like, behind the whole body acceptance is perfection is not the goal here. And so even in these conversations, perfection is not the goal.
Perfection is the pursuit of evil, because you're never going to attain it and you're going to kill yourself trying.
And perfection is like an offshoot of like white supremacy, because the whole thing is about perfection.
Of this way. Yes. Yeah.
Well, it's like I need to be perfect, and so I'm going to edit this photo. I'm going to edit what I write. And yeah, we all do it. I'm super anal retentive about things. But the point is, when we have these conversations, it's okay to fuck up and say the wrong thing. And that's why I gladly sacrifice myself and say, I have said, like, of all the things I'm like, this pisses me off. I've done it a million times too. But it online, social media is just not the place for it. And yeah, of course your intentions were good. But,
oh man,
but then
she
people
said,
make
I will call your wife. I will. I said, you know what I said? I said, I'll answer her phone.
So now Hassan has been giving money to that Nigerian prince who keeps blowing up our emails because he's like, you called my wife what? Elaine, getting back to the body positivity, what does that space look like? And it's more than body positivity. How would you describe it?
Yeah, in my introduction, I said that I'm like a body positive activist, but I'm really a body acceptance activist. Body positivity isn't attainable for everybody, and it doesn't have to be. There's no commandment there to love your body, but accepting who you are, what you are, can really help you walk through this world in a different headspace. I kind of wonder what this world would look like if we weren't suppressing all of these women with diets, because you spend all your energy thinking about food, planning food, what can I eat, what can't I eat? What if we'd spend all our mental energy on like how to run the world? Just, throwing that out there. But it's not everybody's going to get to a body positive place.
I'll never be there.
Me either.
Just the way my brain is wired, so like I have ADHD. I think a lot of adults do. And so the people who don't have it or don't know somebody who knows they have it, it's not necessarily ADD. It's more at times hyperfocus. I think a good example of ADHD is like cleaning does it for me. But like Lindsay will walk in the room and she's like, the bed's half made and there's like a half pile of clothes and that's half clean. Because you kind of get...
I'm getting to it.
Yeah. Like you're all over the place, but you're hyper-focused on cleaning. And I'm hyper-focused about things. But part of it is you're very critical of yourself. And when I found that out, it actually made me feel a little bit better about not being so positive about myself. But like I see a very different version than most people see. So the idea of me ever being super positive, I don't think is attainable, but accepting, even since our first conversation, Elaine, I've been challenging myself to be more accepting of things. And that doesn't mean, the way I'm wired is I'm always going to be super disciplined and try to I want to work out, but I want to work out because I want to work out. I want to feel better because I want to feel better, not because I feel like, so-and-so is going to judge me. Fuck that person. And so I love what you said because I agree 1,000%. But you were saying like you're never going to get there either, right?
No, I mean, again, too, perfection to everyone is also something different,
Right.
and who's to say your definition of perfection is meant for me, and I don't think that's fair to put on people either.
Hassan
And
said you should put on another 40, 50 pounds.
Well, I mean, no,
minimum.
she's fine, right? No, that's a good thing. No, you know what's funny? No.
And Megan, I hope at the end of tonight you leave at least with one thought. Because of the trauma that's happened to you. And it's not to make light of it because it is immense, but because of the trauma that's happened to you, you've second guessed your own value, I think, overall. And when we told her that we were so happy to have her on this show, she's like, me? Like, pfft. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, first of all, you're a movie star, a literal movie star. Secondly, like what you're doing and your ability to talk about it and still be able to take it in stride, even though you're still working through it and you'll probably always be working through this shit, is incredible. And the last thing on my mind, even watching it, had anything to do with your weight or how you looked on camera. Like you're a beautiful person, and I hope you know that and take that to heart because like I couldn't be more sincere in saying that.
Thank you. It's in there. Do I always hear it all the time? No, but
the overarching message that I hope that people can take away from this episode is that it is that you are so much more than your body. Your body is a vessel that is carrying you through this world, and your impact on the world is really what matters, and how you treat other people, right? 100%. And like, how do people walk away from you feeling? Do they feel worse about themselves? Do they feel better about themselves? What kind of contributions are you making? Screw how you look. Who
But
fucking cares?
If you can cuddle well, that matters too, though.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to be able to cuddle well.
But let's. So I'm gonna again throw myself under the bus and show a couple of different things. One, we are always going to care how we look. We especially in today.
Who says who?
In today's modern world, I don't know that you can get away from looks, especially because of social media and TikTok and all that shit. And it's all horseshit because you're putting yourself up against people who've been filtered and they shot the same angle 1,000 times.
You're looking at the wrong social media.
Well, I don't look at that stuff. But I'm saying there's also a difference between consciously caring and subconsciously caring. I'll never not subconsciously care. I'm 40 years old. I can't unlearn that behavior.
But I care about how I look. I do. I'm keenly aware of it.
What I guess what I was trying to say to reframe is how you look doesn't need to be how much you weigh or how thin you are or that kind of part. Like how you look is more like, did I groom myself today? Like did I brush my teeth? Looks should not be everything, but it would be almost impossible to live in this modern day society. And yes, we need to break down the system. And my other prejudice is, as we were saying, when I see somebody who's like super skinny and super fit, I'm very prejudiced. I'm like, they're probably a shallow, vapid piece of shit. I don't even want to have a conversation with them.
Obsessed with it.
Because what have you done? Like, what do you do for fun? I work out. What do you do to get back to the community? I did a charity run. Like, what do you do in your life to make an impact? What books have you read? Like nothing that isn't on a dance mix. Like,
you're doing exactly the same thing to thin people that.
He admitted that. He admitted it. But that's what he admitted. He was admitting that he's doing it in reverse.
To say that the prejudice doesn't go the other way, and the problem is because we put our own expectations and ideas on what is good or bad, and again tying it to morality, like you said, and we put it on other people, and that's. Like, I think there's nothing wrong with somebody who wants to look good. I think there's nothing wrong with somebody who wants to count calories and do it. That is their absolute choice.
Yes.
And like what I try to do is consciously stop myself from judging them, from trying to fix them, like tell them like, well, hey, if you were a wrestler, all you got to do is wear a fucking garbage bag and run around the halls with your shirt off, which is literally something that the wrestlers did.
Yes. Eat ginger fingers.
So... I mean, would you say that's kind of the theme of the space is kind of like do what makes you happy? You owe it to nobody but yourself to live your life.
Yeah, your life should not be defined by the outline of your body. There's so much more contained within you than what fits in your silhouette.
I mean, remember when COVID started and we were all isolated and we're all stuck at home and everybody was like posting about how much weight they were gaining. And I was even making jokes about it. I was like, I can't unlock my phone. It doesn't recognize me anymore. But we were so much happier.
Yeah.
And if I think about myself at some of the points in life, you mentioned like, and your story might be different, but like people are like, I got married, I put on some weight because you were happy. Like, you think comfortable and you think comfortable is bad. Mm-hmm. Comfort.
Too much comfort might be, I mean, anything in
moderation. Sure.
Yeah. But no, I agree with you because, I did I ever get thin in a healthy way? No. But meeting my husband, finally being happy and in a healthy relationship, that's how I got here, which is I'm not blaming him, but finally being able to not worry about it, I guess, essentially because I had someone who loved me no matter what size I was. And that gave me the freedom to do whatever I wanted, which I did. So, and it's a great thing.
We just have to get away from this idea that like the only way to be happy is to be as miserable as fucking possible. Like we have one short, tiny little second on this planet in our existence, and let's not spend it not eating double Whoppers with cheese or the fucking chicken
and
sandwich.
It would be different if the puritanical mindsets that were espousing that crap weren't, once they got away from the altar, once they got away from the lectern, once they got out of the pulpit, they weren't going back and eating, oysters Rockefeller.
Yeah.
And drinking the best wine and the best cheeses and eating the best cheeses they could find. It would be different if that hypocrisy wasn't there.
Because those rules don't apply to the rich and powerful.
Yeah.
The 1%, all of the things that we unpack that traumatize us through our lives, they make those rules and they don't have to be held to any of those standards. And it's very easy for a white man to be sitting there bitching about this stuff. I mean, everybody but me here.
I think, like you said, for men in general, because we have a pretty easy walk at it. You can have some guys who take an introspective look and say, oh man, I felt bad that I had to get a 44 instead of a 42, but he
I don't think I've ever heard a man say that. Not that they haven't.
No, I'm saying that they don't. They don't. I'm saying they don't.
But it's not that they don't think it. It's that they don't say it because it's like, you're a man, be a man. And that's the biggest problem with mental health in this space. And that's why men's voices are still important. It's because we were never taught, like, it's okay to talk about this. It's okay to hurt. It's okay to have feelings. Like, feelings that's for women and children and the babies that we want to protect with Roe v. Wade. Elaine, who are some of the people that have helped inspire you in this space?
Oh gosh.
Because I mentioned the TikTok one, that was Dances with Fat, which it's a female who's a dancer and she posts videos, but she also is like all about this, like, I'm going to eat what I want and be happy. Shut the fuck up.
She's like my OG inspirer, Reagan Chastain. She's an incredible human being, and follow her. She has a blog, Dances with Fat. She actually lectures at medical schools and public health spaces about the weight stigma and how damaging it is and how diets don't work and like, what the hell are we doing here? So definitely check her out, Reagan Chastain. I was lucky enough to do a 6-month body image mentorship with Summer Inanen, she has the podcast Eat the Rules. And she's done a lot of work in this space. She's on Instagram and Facebook, and she's fantastic. One of the earlier places that I turned for inspiration and just knowledge were podcasts, and Christy Harrison's Food Psych is incredible. So packed with factual information. It's where I originally heard Lindo Bacon talk about their journey through health at every size. And they went on to write Body Respect and Radical Belonging.
We have to put an asterisk next to Lindo Bacon because, I think in our culture, it's like if somebody, which there was some problematic things that happened, but when somebody does something bad, we throw everything out, the baby with the bathwater. Lindo, high level, do you want to explain what the Lindo Bacon controversy was?
Yeah, they made some poor choices in the way they treated several people of color and several people with less power than themselves. And it was really damaging to those people.
It was somebody who was trying to be the voice, for lack of a better term, the voice for the fat people, but wasn't letting the fat people be the voice of the fat people in that same space. And there was a race skew to it as well.
It's always a race skew.
And it was like me saying, Hassan, I want you to come on my show, but I don't want to credit you in the episode.
Yeah. And could we keep you off camera?
Yeah. And I'm just going to ad lib and redub my voice over yours. So try to speak as white as possible. Elaine, what is it, if there's one takeaway that you want our listeners or viewers to get from this episode, what is that?
Overall, it's complicated. It's more complicated than what meets the eye. And this journey is not like I listened to a podcast and now I'm good to go. I'm not going to diet anymore and I'm going to be body positive and it's all great. This has been a multi-year journey for me to get where I am, and I'm a baby in terms of understanding all of this stuff. I mean, I've heard it from all of you throughout the podcast. There are doubts that creep in because this is such a paradigm shift from how we are all raised, and it rocked my world. And so I would just hope that people can take away a curiosity around this stuff, and an appreciation for thinking outside the box and trying something new.
We get reprogrammed in most of the situations in which we are, like a religious cult or a certain cultural standpoint, where curiosity is bad, asking questions is bad. And we're going to definitely talk more about that, but I want to give Megan as many opportunities as possible to plug what she's been doing to help people who've been taught all of those bad things.
Oh boy. So, number one is just any chance I get talking about what I've been through and being really candid and open and honest. And even with the fact that I'm still working through it. I don't know. I probably will never be done getting through it. There's always going to be something there that I have to go, oh, I didn't know that was an issue. I see it now. Let's work and move to the other side. So what I do with, my foundation is I'm that person that I wanted to have when I was young, and especially when I came through all that I came through, and validating people, when they reach out and say, I can't fully relate, but I went through this. And, you can even tell, like, they play it off like it's no big deal. And I'm like, no, if it affected you in a negative way and it's still something that it haunts you to this day, like, let's work through it. Let's talk about it. I'm like a safe space, a safe person for people to come to and be validated and cared for, and, what they need, then I'll do research with them and help them, get what they need and just reaffirm them that we're loved.
And where can they find you?
www.beyondzion.org.
Yes. And thank you so much for taking time to be here, for being candid, for throwing your husband under the bus.
In love, but no,
in love.
He means so well. He would be so upset if he thought he hurt me at all. But
no, but I think I'm so glad you said it, because to sit there and pretend like, oh, I don't know anybody who acts like that. I act like that. We all have acted like that. It's about trying to be better in that sense. Hassan, do you have any final thoughts?
No, it was good to be here, and I think the fact that Elaine and Megan are willing to talk and converse and not pontificate. No one wants to be pontificated to, and I like that you're a wealth of knowledge, but you're not trying to pontificate to anyone. You're just sharing when engaged. And I'm feeling your little asymmetric flip thing with your hair. So don't tell us you don't care about how you look. You threw that over there. I saw you throw it over there.
It's true. It's very true. But she did marry one of the like GQ models from our high school.
A cool guy.
Yeah, she did. Well, Elaine, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for taking the time and for educating me on a lot of this stuff, because it is really trying to reprogram my own brain and relearn what body acceptance, not necessarily positivity, really is. And like I said, in just a couple of weeks' time, as we've been leading up to this episode, I've noticed little things in my daily life that negativity and some of those like really bad, really harmful things are creeping in less and less. And that's really important. So I hope everybody else can get something out of this. So to you viewers and listeners out there, go ahead and grab some heavy, very nice comfort food and listen to some more uncomfortable conversations at thegoingtherepodcast.com. You can check out all of our episodes from season 1, catch up on season 2, as well as check out our socials, where Hassan will just be posting all of these thirst traps from his high school photos.
Yes, indeed.
And
no, you know what's funny? I've gotten more play as Big Haas than I ever did as, athletic cool dude.
Because most of America looks like the people in this conversation and not like Elaine's husband. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we will see you next time. Thank you. While you're at it, give us a rating, share with a friend, and subscribe. And don't forget to check out our musician and comedian, Abby Feldman,
at abbyfeldman.org.
People who don't believe in astrology are the ones with the crappy signs, crappy signs. Crappy, crappy, crappy. Aries, you're a stubborn ass bitch. Taurus, you are lazy as shit. A Gemini, you are a two-faced witch. Cancer, you cry all the time.
This podcast is made possible by its hosts and Frame One Media in association with Lindsay Baker, Joe Calley, and Bobby Thomas.